Hello again. To be honest, to have Fazna Madam over here and listening to her, I was in tears, happy tears, proud tears. Yes, most of the people, when they get a title, they don't see the citizens. They don't. They don't really want to talk to the citizens even. They don't want to be that empathic leader even. I'm really proud of Madam Fazna, and I want you all to give a round applause again for let that she's here with us. Okay, so the next speaker, he's a versatile individual with a diverse skill set, a digital entrepreneur, professional speaker, author of multiple books, professor of digital marketing, podcaster, and an organic farmer. With over 2 decades of experience in the digital domain, he has received recognition for his work, including the Digital Entrepreneur of the Year award from India Innovation Forum. He is actively involved in various ventures and initiatives that showcase that his expertise and passion for different fields. He is known as for his expertise in digital entrepreneurship as the CEO of business blogging, a social media consultant, and additionally more, he co-founded the Professional Speakers Association of India under the Global Speakers Federation, showcasing his dedication to professional speaking and knowledge sharing. Apart from his professional endeavors, his commitment to the sustainable agriculture practice reflects his holistic approach towards life and business.
Okay, if you're taking the second sheet, it means it's
No,
danger.
no,
So that's fine.
it's not really,
No.
it's not. I really wanted to finish what I started, so
Okay.
please. Thank you. Thank you. Here I hand over to the floor to Mr. Kiruba Shankar, and his topic is build your leadership reputation, and he will be conducting a crowdsourced keynote. So please join me to extend a loud warm of applause to Mr. Kiruba. All yours.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. There you go. What wasn't mentioned as part of the introduction is my deep passion about having conversations with leaders. These are business leaders, CEOs, sports persons, film personalities. What is it that makes some of these people uber successful, and what can we learn as part of that? So, India's leading business newspaper is called the Hindu Business Line, and I had an opportunity to host a podcast. It's called Movers and Shakers. And I've interviewed over 115 of such star studded personalities. And I wanted to find out, can we fish out what is it that is, what personalities or traits that is very unique that connects across? And I could find out at least about half a dozen practices that strung across all of these 100 plus leaders. And one of them is vulnerability. So, Madam Fazna, thank you so much for really setting that thing. And leaders become great when they are fallible. Leaders become great when they are human. You know, the bigger the company, the larger the country, you tend to move away. That also forms an important part as you build your reputation as a leader. So what I've done over the course of another hour and a half is I've strung together real life stories. These are stories that I've been inspired by, and I'm also taking stories that have happened in my own life, and we'll try and distill in what is it that we can take home away. Now, I'm acutely aware that you've been sitting here since from morning. It's far easier being a speaker. It's far more difficult being an passive audience, and which is why, so thank you for introducing that this is going to be a crowdsourced keynote. One of the books that I've authored is actually called Unconference, and why the collective knowledge of the audience is always higher than that of the speaker. So I seek your participation and your support as we go by. Let's start with our first story. We are in the Maldives, so let me ask a very relevant question. Right? Now, I want you to, don't shout out the names as yet, but I want you to answer this question for me, which is, so Hassan, you're automatically disqualified from answering, right? So, but let's ask the gang, name the largest hotel chain in the world. Now, you can now go ahead and shout out what name comes to your mind. What's that? Ritz-Carlton? That's a good guess. Hilton is a very good one. Close, but yeah. Four Seasons is good. What's that? Okay, let's take that. What else? Marriott? That's a good one. Now, St. Regis. Now, all of these names that you mentioned, I want you to add the entire set of chains of hotels around the world and multiply that with the number of rooms that each resort or hotel will have around the world, which is the Marriotts of the world, the number of hotels multiplied by the number of rooms. You add all of that, it doesn't even form 30% of Airbnb. Not even 30%. So the point that I wanted to really illustrate is not so much the fact that we know Airbnb, the company, it is as of today, its market capitalization is $96.17 billion, or the fact that they have tens of thousands of employees. That's for the business papers to worry about. But for us in this audience, what's really fascinating is really the birth of the story. Thanks to the podcast, I had a chance to have a conversation with Brian Chesky. That's the guy on your right. He's the founder, the key person who founded the concept of Airbnb. The guy in the middle is Joe Gebbia. Both of them were actually college mates. And much later, Nathan, the guy on the left, joined them later as co-founders, as the chief technology officer. But very interesting. While I don't know if that concept lies in Maldives, but typically what people do was once they finished their college, and there is a small period of time where before you hit the workforce, you take a sabbatical. You go out on a road trip, you travel the world around, because you know once you hit the workforce, then you're going to keep running on the treadmill, right? The rat race. And that's what these guys decided. They decided that they're going to go on a road trip, and they wanted to, in their dorm room, all the stuff that they had, they wanted to dispose it off. And they had this one particular sofa, the white sofa, that they wanted to sell. They put this sofa out on Craigslist, wanting to find a buyer. And a buyer came at about 7 o'clock at night. And then at 7 in the night, the guy had to take it, put it on a trailer, and head out to another place some 300 miles away. And that's when what Brian Chesky said, hey, listen, it's already late for you. I don't mind if you want to just come in and crash and leave in the morning. And the guy who came to buy, and that's him sleeping, and he said, thank you for the offer. Actually, I'll take that offer. I'll sleep on the couch that I'm anyway going to buy, and I'll leave in the morning. And it was only after the guy left with the sofa, paid the money, and gone, another person said, are you nuts? How in the world you let a complete stranger, you haven't seen that person before, you don't know his background, nothing, but he actually stayed in your house. What if he was a murderer? What if he was a serial killer? And that's when the light bulb moment really went up for Brian Chesky. You know what? By default, most of us as humans, we are very kind, right? So in the history of mankind, in spite of the Syria war, in spite of Israel-Palestine war, in spite of Russia-Ukraine war, we are living in the most peaceful period in the entire human history, right? And that's an amazing takeaway that the light bulb movement went. And that's how they started off with starting a company less than a year after they graduated from college called Air, Bed and Breakfast. And then much later, they shortened it down to Airbnb, and we know rest is history. Now, I want to take a pause out here because there is an important lesson that all of us should learn out of this. So I want you to park your thought, and I'm going to give you exactly 10 seconds. What's one takeaway that you felt out of the story so far? The story hasn't finished yet. The interesting part of the story starts after this. But as of now, what's one takeaway if you were to apply in your life that you would? I want you to take a pen and paper and a napkin, paper, notebook, phone, whatever it is. I want you to write down that one single thought because it'll be useful for us to discuss as we go by. What's the one takeaway for you if you were to apply in your life out of this story so far? Thank you. The reason why I ask you to write down is just so much easier to refer than to rethink. Let me continue with the story. The best part comes after this. So the three people start Airbnb, and it's easy to start a business, far more difficult to keep it running, as we all know. So all these guys started to fund the company out of their savings, and when their savings ran out, they started to use their credit cards, and there was a time when they actually, all three of them, maxed out their credit card, which is very little more to spend. Two choices. They could shut shop or they could find out an innovative way, which is exactly what they did. You know what they did? The year was 2008. This is the year that, this is the Democratic National Convention, I think that took place in Seattle, if I'm right. So this is the convention where before the elections happened. And of course, Obama had given that famous speech a few years ago, and that catapulted him to be the presidential candidate. And that's when an idea came about saying that, hey, you know what? So this is going to happen. This is going to happen in any city in the world, be it Seattle, be it Colorado. In any city that is going to happen, there's going to be a severe accommodation crunch, correct? Right? I mean, look at what's happening in Euro happening. Look at what happened in the Cricket World Cup. In any city that is being hosted, there's usually a very severe crunch. And that's how they came up with the idea, saying that, hey, you know what? Why don't we invite people who usually move out of the city because residents hate the crowd? I don't know if you know this, in every Olympics, the Olympics is going to happen in Paris, right? So you'll see so many people who are Parisians who are living in the city, they will get the hell out of the city, right? Because it's going to be like super crowded. And so they stuck all of these ideas and say that, why don't we go and encourage people to let their homes out or extra rooms out? And that's how they did. But they came out with a very interesting one. As soon as we come out with the presentation, and so now I'm going to paint a picture and I want you to visualize, all right? So in the presentation, when they went in and told people about such a scenario, there were very little takers, right? Because you had to go in and convince. And to do a business of this magnitude, you need large marketing spend. They had already burned their savings. They had already maxed out their credit cards. And they came out with a brilliant idea. They went to Walmart and bought truckloads of cereal boxes. You know, cereal, or breakfast cereal? Because Walmart sells their own branded cereals which are much lesser than your Kellogg's of the world. So they bought lots of them and they printed very creative ones, which is like this. They created their own thing and they stuck these sheets on top of the cereal boxes and they sold over 20,000 of them. And this is for Obama, that is his rival John McCain. And they were able to make some money. You know why? The money they were made is because they never wanted to be in the cereal business. They wanted to earn money somehow to fire their dream, which is their Airbnb dream. And the reason why I tell you this particular story is this one single step that they took got the attention of this guy, Paul Graham. Paul Graham is the founder of Y Combinator. Y Combinator is arguably the world's greatest seed investor. So many of these big names that we all know about, he's the guy who's really, he's credited with really helping them out. And the only reason why, out of many, of course, but one powerful reason why Paul Graham went and funded Airbnb, and he gave only $30,000 and he took 6% stake. Now, I want you to now imagine, right now, Airbnb is worth $96 billion. And Paul Graham, by putting $30,000, he now owns 6% of Airbnb, right? That is like insane. And somebody interviewed Paul Graham, what made you do that? He says, I actually did not believe in Airbnb. I thought one single murder case somewhere, one single burglary in one house would have shut down the entire business. And I know that that might happen. But the reason why I put in this $30,000 is because if these three co-founders can be intelligent enough, can be persuasive enough to do whatever it takes to follow their dream and make that come true. That is the quality I look out for in any entrepreneur. Airbnb business may fail, but they are smart enough to start another one. So I invest in people, I don't invest in ideas. That's a powerful takeaway for all of us. So as we sit out here, all of us out here are in a way entrepreneurs. Some of us may be working in government, some of us may be having a professional job. But this is the mindset I think we should really develop. The ability to come out with innovative ways. The ability to fall in love with an idea that you thoroughly believe in. And the second one is the ability to figure out ways to get it done no matter what. I think that's beautiful. Thank you for that. So by the way, I really wanted to congratulate all of you out here. It didn't strike me until my friend Venkatrangan pointed out. Both of us were very impressed with the amount of women turnout in this event. This is like very heartening, and we were just saying that if this was the case in India, I don't think it will happen. So kudos to all of you, kudos to Shaheena, really for doing this. So really awesome. Thank you. I want to tell you a second story. But before I go, what did you write down in your sheet? Can some of you just... Yeah, Shaheena is going to beat you down if you don't have a mic. So let's get a mic to you. Where is it? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I wrote down, execute the idea, get it done.
Get it done. Execute the idea. That's a brilliant one. Let's pass it on. Yeah, you can go ahead and then after that. Yeah.
Okay. I wrote two things. Number one is creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, nothing is impossible.
Creativity, nothing is impossible. Thank you so much.
This is not an original idea, but the first thing that came to my mind when I listened to the story is a quote from one of my favorite authors, Rory Sutherland. He is a prolific producer when it comes to marketing
He's
insights.
one of the brightest minds in advertising.
And there's saying that Rory keeps repeating himself. He says, the opposite of a good idea is another good idea.
Mm.
So the opposite of a good idea is not a bad idea. The opposite of a good idea is another good idea.
There you go.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing that came to my mind.
And another brilliant one, because you mentioned about Roddy Sutherland. Who's the best comedian around? Who's amongst the most famous comedians? Who's the highest paid? Anyway, yeah. Who's that? Kevin Hart and many of these stand-up comics who are awesomely successful, they say the only, and I want to repeat what Hassan mentioned, which is the best way for you to come out with a great stand-up line is by writing a lot of really bad stand-up lines, right? And that's the only way that you can come out. So only by coming up with as many ideas as possible will you be able to hit on a master stroke. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, my one is believe in yourself and also see out of box.
You literally took that, no? Out of the cereal box. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that is wonderful. Isn't that great? You know, they made about $20,000. They got funding of $30,000. Just look at that. That's remarkable. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. So I'm going to start off with my second story, and this is something that happened in my life. So I want to be conscious of the gang. You guys have always been in the rain shadow region of attention, you know. So I want to make sure that I spend some time. So I'm a huge believer in communities, and that is why when Shaheena invited, you know, to come here and speak, the main reason why I immediately said yes, and there was another travel that was planned, but I said yes, is it's very rare to find people like who can take leadership and who can follow through with an idea and pull people together. I call them the watering hole people, right? In a forest, if you have a watering hole, a pond, and different set of animals will come together and to drink, and that's a powerful factor to bring people in. So that's one of the things that I also do. I host such community meetups. And one of the meetup that I organized was a meetup called WikiCamp. WikiCamp is a gathering of about 300 Wikipedia editors, people who contribute to Wikipedia, who write. And I hosted an event. And one of the thoughts was about chief guest. You know, just like how Shaheena was struggling to get chief guests, we were also brainstorming within ourselves who would make a great chief guest. So if you were hosting an event on Wikipedia, which chief guest would you want to invite? Take a wild guess. Hassan Ahmed? I'm sorry? A whistleblower? Okay. That's a good one. Both are good. So the obvious one came to our mind, which is this guy. His name is Jimmy Wales. He's the founder of Wikipedia. So interestingly enough, we took a long shot. We wrote to him and said, Jimmy, we are hosting an event called WikiCamp. It's the largest in India, and we would love for you to come in as a chief guest. So luckily enough, he said yes, and he flew in. Now, typically, when you get a chief guest, what do? You take care of them. You book a nice hotel room, right? There's a chauffeur-driven car, and of course, you take care. You show them around the city. But what we told Jimmy Wales is that, listen, we can do that. We can put you in a 5-star hotel. We can take good care of you. But how about you coming and staying with one of us? So this way, you'd be able to experience what a middle-class Indian's experiences, just staying along with family. Interestingly, he said, yes, that sounds very interesting. I'd love. And that's how he stayed at my house for 4 nights. And so this is really like Shah Rukh Khan coming and staying in our house, you know. If you know, it's like such a big deal. He's like the rock star of the technology world, you know. And so I did not miss out on opportunity. So that's my daughter and my elder daughter writing, welcome Jimmy. And I took this opportunity to interview Jimmy Wales for the podcast, the Movers and Shakers podcast. And that was a wow impact, right? Because again, the birth story of Wikipedia was mind-blowing. Right? He actually started off, the original idea that he started off was actually called Newpedia. It's N-U-P-E-D-I-A. What is Newpedia? The way how it functions is very simple. There will be topics across, just like in an encyclopedia, you will have various topics around the world. You pick a topic and then you identify who is the absolute authority on that topic, and then you pay money to that person, and that person will write content on that particular case, right? They had gone in, Jimmy Wales, that was the time of .com boom, right? So if you had a PowerPoint presentation and if you had if you had a great idea, VCs will come and hound you down to give you money. That was the time. So what happened? He had raised a lot of money, and he had launched Newpedia. And unfortunately, after a few months, 2 planes went and hit 2 tall buildings. And not only did those buildings come crashing down, so did the entire world's economy. And that coincided with the .com bust. And over 1,000 companies were going kaput, were folding down every single day. And Newpedia sadly ended up the same way. They lost tens of millions of dollars, but they had to close it down or not. So what Jimmy Wales did was very interesting. It's easy to shut down a business, but he said, I won't shut down, but somehow I will keep it in the low burner, and we'll figure a solution out. So what he did, he went and changed the code along with a few people. He went and changed the code and said, instead of it being like an editorial site where only a small team of people will go and write onto the site, he made it in such a way that anybody with access to the internet from anywhere in the world will be able to go and edit, add, or delete content on the site. So he went in front of people and said, I have nothing. I've been paying you so far. Sorry, I don't have any money. But if you are genuinely passionate about any area that you truly believe in, we welcome you to take ownership and you can write about it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, turned out to be the absolute pivotal path. Now, even this day, even after almost 20 plus years of founding of Wikipedia, Wikipedia still continues to be the largest collective repository of human knowledge on planet Earth. Man-made produced content. Of course, ChatGPT has come and generative AI. By the way, don't miss out the session by Venkat Rangan, who's going to be coming and taking this session on the power of what generative AI is. But for man-made content, it still continues to be the most powerful site out there. So there's a lesson, there's a very powerful lesson for all of us. Can you guess what that is? And Jimmy Wales also said, had the 9/11 incident hadn't happened, the new media business would have still failed and he would have been a pauper. But because there was this massive incident that happened, and that is what saved the company. So he relaunched it as Wikipedia. Wiki means quick, and that's how he came up with this idea. So the power really comes from the ability to crowdsource, the ability to trust in others, the ability to value the knowledge that others have, and then you pull together, and that is the secret behind it. So it's a very, very powerful lesson that whether you're going to build yourself as a coach, whether you're building yourself as a leader, whether you're building yourself as a mentor, or whatever is the line of field that you're in, I would strongly urge you to consciously look at how can you be more inclusive as a way to get ideas from people and then to power through. I think that's super important. Which brings to the next point. Typically, if somebody comes and asks us, can you name a brand that immediately comes to your mind? Apple, right? What other brand that comes to your mind? Microsoft. I know why you're sitting right next to Venkat Rangan. He's an honorary director at Microsoft, right? So I think it's caught on to you. Yeah, yeah. Dewdrop Shaheena. There you go. That's a brand. Uh, So if you look at typically when we think of brand, what comes to our mind? Would I be correct? So when somebody said, when Shihab mentioned about Apple, yeah, sorry. Feeling of prestige, that feeling of feeling great having the product, the feeling of having to sell your left kidney to buy that phone, that is a very powerful, yeah, it's true. And that's why you find anybody, I'm sure many of you have Apple phones and you feel that element of pride in you, right? So mostly what we do is when you think of a brand, let's say Apple, right? So you think of Apple, you know how the logo looks like, the forbidden bitten apple, and design is world-class design. And what's the slogan for Apple? Think different? Or maybe it's different now. Uh, you think of Nike, it's just do it, and world-class shoes. So I can go on, Starbucks. So most of us, we attribute a brand to these things. But like Shihab rightly mentioned, it's actually none of the above. It is actually this. This is how many people know your product, right? How do people perceive you? Have you built trust? And then have you built a strong reputation? The reason why I'm consciously pointing out that, and thanks Shaheena for really telling you as a brand, because it's super important that all of us, we are CEOs of our own brand. And many times, especially for those of us who are working in the government or for those of us who are working as professionals in a corporate company, we fail to see that promise. We think we're just an employee. Our job, we're getting a salary to do a particular work, and that's what you focus on. At best, you're focused on structuring your LinkedIn profile or your resume properly. But many times, like Hassan mentioned about with the increasing of the gig economy around, more and more reasons why we should really start looking at ourselves as a brand name. Right? And I want you to now run through the same test that we ran through Apple, the same way that we ran through Nike or Starbucks. How many people know you? What's your level of trust? If somebody were to hire you for a project or somebody were to hire you for your job, are you trustworthy? What do people perceive you as? And what's your reputation? I can tell you, doing this exercise is as uncomfortable as recording yourself speaking in front of a camera and then playing it back. Have you ever done that? My goodness. Yeah, you record, never watch it, right? It's so insanely embarrassing to seeing yourself play. Equally awkward is doing this exercise for yourself. More often than not, you'd be shocked at how poorly most of us we rank in many of these. That's because we have not consciously built on any of these. So I think that the topic is on how to build your leadership reputation. And I would strongly urge all of us to be super conscious and to do a self-evaluation exercise on how others perceive us to be. Right? It's a very important point. Why? So one of the things that I absolutely love about Malé and Hulu Malé, I'm staying on the beach road. I see these beautiful cafes all around, right? And they open late into the night, thank God, so we can watch football matches. And so beautiful. And there, if you go and see, I'm also so thankful that there's no Starbucks here in Maldives, right? Yeah? No, thank you. Please keep it that way. Right? So one of the beautiful things is that why would we pay an insane amount of money to a branded coffee versus a coffee that we get in a local cafe? Why? Because what you're actually doing is, many of us, let's say you're going on a date. You want to take your girlfriend or you want to take your boyfriend, and you will go to a decent space out on a lunch or a dinner, and you're actually paying for the ambience. You're paying for how it makes both of you feel good. You're paying for service. But actually, you know what? The reason for that premium is because brands can charge more because they deliver value. They never talk about, you'll never see an Apple ad that tells you that their CPU has more power. You'll never see an Apple ad that comes and says that, hey, you know what, we have more battery power. Have you ever seen that? Never, right? Because they always focus on how it makes you feel good. Who was that you said? Was it you, Shihab? It's how it makes you feel good is what will actually will determine the value of it. Whereas, this is just an analogy. Coffee is an analogy for us. And when you start fighting over pricing, when, hey, your competitors are charging this and hence you want to charge lower than that for you to get that contract or for you to get that job, then you immediately know that you are in the commodity space. It means that you've not done a good job of building your persona and building your reputation. Right? So that is something for all of us to keep this in mind. Great. This is story number 2. Story number 3. So this is me speaking at an event in Manila, Philippines a few years ago. And being the cheap guy that I am, I always fly low-cost airlines. So I fly this airline, AirAsia. And to go to Chennai, I'm from the city of Chennai, which is in the south of India. To go from Manila to Chennai, there's a one hop over at Kuala Lumpur. But in Kuala Lumpur, there are 2 airports, right? So one is called Kuala Lumpur International Airport, CLIA 1, and then there's another one called CLIA 2, right? CLIA 1 is this glitzy, snitsy, boof, all beautiful shops, high-end shops, glamour, large, spacious, and then you get CLIA 2, which you can easily mistake it to be a hospital. Like super simple, straightforward, no bells, whistles, cramped, small. So I'm walking down this on my way to catch my connecting flight. And as I'm walking by, I see this particular guy sitting alone and working on his phone. And I'm walking by, and I'm seeing this guy, and suddenly I stop. It's like, that guy looks very familiar. I know this guy, but I can't place his name, right? So I know him, but how do I go and strike up a conversation? So I go behind a pillar, I take my phone, and kuchuk, I take a photo of him. And then when you take a photo and put it on Google, it'll then tell you who that is, right? And that's when it's, oh yeah, just 3 days back, I saw a documentary about him on BBC. This guy, his name is Hassan Al-Kontar. Hassan Al-Kontar is a Syrian guy, and he has the world record for staying at the airport for the maximum number of days. So this guy has been living in the airport, not out of choice, but he's been forced to. So just to give you a background story, so he's a Syrian, and if you're a Syrian, you are required to be part of the army, just like in any other, like Israel and any such country, you're required to go. And you know that there's a civil war going on in Syria where they keep fighting. So he didn't want to be part of the army because then it means that you have to go kill your own countrymen. So he decided not to go join, and he moved on to Dubai, and he took up a job in Dubai. But he's been listed down as a deserter. If you're a deserter, then it kind of hits you back. But sadly, what happened after 3 years, his visa, Dubai visa expires, which means he has to come back to the country to renew his visa. And when he goes back to the country, he's finished, right? That's the sad reality. And so there were only, I think, two countries in the world, Muslim countries, that he can travel to without a visa, and that is one is Malaysia, right? So he traveled to Malaysia, and because of some visa complication, he could not be let into the country. So he's at the Kuala Lumpur airport. Now, because of some complication, he can't get into the country, and there's no other country that is willing to take him, so he can't even go out of the country. So which means that he was stuck at the airport. And so I had a chance, I went and met up with him. I actually did a story about him. Okay, let's see if it plays. If not, okay. This is a really, really sad story. Do you know what's the most expensive place in any city? It is really the airport, right? Do you know what the cost of a coffee or it's just insane. Now imagine a guy, no job, no family, no friends, no employment, no way to earn money, and you are in the most expensivest place, right? And so he actually slept under a staircase, and he would use washrooms between 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. because that's when the flights were not there, and he would go to the shower. He only had 2 pairs of dresses that he would wash, and it's just like really, really sad. And while I was interviewing him, speaking, I really had tears flowing down my eyes. It's just so sad to see that. And to make it worse, his younger brother was getting married, and in his marriage, there was ISIS attack, and he lost a lot of family members, and that even came in the news. So to make it even worse, right? And but the most beautiful thing about him, you know what? And this is a master class in how a person can use digital and social media to your advantage. An absolute master class. Every single day, the only weapon that he had was his phone with a charger. And because there was free Wi-Fi in the airport, he would use it. And every single day, he would record video of himself narrating the state of mind. He would talk about when he was happy, when somebody offers him a coffee for free, and he considers this as a big thing. And then he would talk about it. In fact, when I met him and when I was leaving, I had about $215 in my pocket, right? So I kept $15 with me. I took those $200 and said that, please have it, right? But then he said, no, I don't need your money, right? I said, I don't need your money, but I want you to do something which is even more valuable than the money that you're giving me. Can you promise me, can you do that? I said, what is it? Can you influence the airport authorities to please open the window because I have not smelt fresh air in 3 months of me being there? He says, all I need is for the window to be open so I can just breathe in fresh air. I've been living in this confined space for over 100 days. Can you do that for me? I mean, that's when even now I'm having goosebumps as I'm telling you this story. So we all take this for granted, no? Our freedom, our food, we can walk wherever we want, but this is the guy. But every single day, he would talk about a story, and because of his consistency of those short videos, your Instagram reels that he would put up, a lot of news, these are the list of TV channels that covered a story. This is the list of newspapers that covered a story. You know, there's this one Tom Hanks movie where what's that? Terminal, that's the movie, right? So this is almost a real case, excepting there's no Catherine Zeta-Jones for him at the airport. But it's almost a similar story. But the beautiful thing is that he spun it to his advantage. And thankfully, much later, so this is the story I wrote to him in the newspaper based on my experience meeting him. And we were working on a book together. It didn't see the light of day. And then right now, he's in Canada. because there was someone who found a story uh, compelling enough, and the Canadian government also came in and they gave him asylum, and they also helped him with the job. So he's doing very well for himself. But now he's fighting for the rights of other Syrian refugees around. That's the brilliant part, you know. So he's not just being selfish, saying that, hey, it's not because I want to get out so I can lead a better life. I want to get out because I can fight for the better lives of other Syrian refugees whose voice we don't hear. I think that is super powerful. Now, the reason why I picked up this particular story is if a guy in such challenging scenarios, no money at all, no connections at all, no family, no friends, no job, if he is able to take advantage of technology, what stops us? We all have goals. We all have dreams. We all have massive aspirations. What is stopping us? You know, I think that's a very powerful, powerful thing for us to really ponder about. And next time you think of, I want you to go back home tonight and search for Hassan al-Kontar. It's Hassan, Hassan al-Al Kontar, Kontar. And I want you to Google, and I want you to watch some of the documentaries that have been made on this guy. Right? It is truly a life lesson on how you can build reputation for the greater good. Right? It's a very powerful thing. I want to go to story number 4. So remember, each one of these stories are not just stories because I'm telling you, because all of them have some solid takeaways for us to build ourselves, build our reputation. How many of us know about this TED? Right? Of course, all of us would have watched a TED talk. Right? Has anyone here been to a TED conference? No. Okay. So let me break the math out for you. A TED conference is going to happen in the US later this year, the 2025 edition. So 2025 edition, the tickets, you could, if you're lucky, you would get it. Can you guess what the cost of attending? So TED goes on for 4 days. It's a 4-day conference. I'm sorry? Yeah. Yeah, that's $12,000 to attend the conference. And this does not include accommodation, it does not include food, it does not include your flight. You add all of that, you're looking at least $20,000 to go and attend a TED conference. Okay? I want you to keep this in your mind as I tell this. That's how much is it costing? If you were to go, one person, if you were to go and attend a TED conference, that's, yeah, John, for you automatically it is 40,000, right? So that's the math you have to do. Yeah. So that's an insane amount of money. The reason why I'm emphasizing on this $20,000 is because some of the greatest minds come on stage and speak. You and me know that, correct? TED Talks are super popular. Fabulous audience. Not only are the speakers curated, even the audience is curated. Do you know that? Right? So you can only apply, but they decide if you can make the cut. And to make the cut, you must have done something of significance in your life. Right? You should have made an impact, or you should have been in the upper echelons of society, or in higher positions of power, corporate power, or you should have made a social impact that's very noteworthy. Only then can you make that cut as an attendee. And every single talk is recorded in HD, ultra HD cameras. There are 7 cameras in the hall, and there are Hollywood editors that are hired to edit these videos, and every single video is put up on YouTube and is put up on TED.com. So I want you to just digest that, what I just told you now. What did I tell you? On the first case, you have to pay $20,000 to go and attend a TED conference if you want to be there in person. What's the next thing I said? Every single video is for free. Something doesn't add up, no? So just to give you a little background story, sorry, let me just go back. Background story is Chris Anderson is an amazing guy, one of my personal heroes in life. So Chris Anderson used to run a massive magazine empire. He had in his stable, in his publishing empire, he had over 55 magazines that he was running. Extremely successful. But again, just like what happened to Jimmy Wales, during the dot-com bust, he lost all his fortunes. He became very depressed, right? Because almost every single day he was losing $1 million in valuation. So he decided to sell his entire publishing empire out for peanuts. And with the money that he had, he took over the brand of TED Talks. Back then, TED conference used to be like a very closed door, Ivy League, ultra exclusive space. So, there are only about 300 people who are invited in, and only those 300 people will get to watch. Not a single video comes out. But when Chris Anderson took over the ownership of TED, the very year that took over ownership of TED, his thought was, this is ideas worth spreading. That's the motto of TED, ideas worth spreading. And he said, if you're keeping it within closed doors, ideas will not spread. And hence, he took a call and he said, every single talk will be put out. And then his friends, well-wishers, all came and said, Chris, you're making a massive mistake. Do you know what mistake he's making? If you're giving away your most precious commodity, which is knowledge, which are the videos, if you're giving away your most precious asset, why would anybody come and buy another ticket? Without spending a single dollar, at the comfort of their house, they can sit down and watch the videos. Why would anybody? $20,000 is a lot of money. Back then, it used to be only about $3,000. Now it is $12,000. The scenario I'm telling you this, it used to be $3,000 for the conference. But Chris Anderson said, listen, I'm the sole investor. I'm the sole owner of this place. I take decisions. Let's go with it. And because of that one single brave decision, decided the future and the success of TED conferences. Let me ask you a question. Tonight, England are playing Switzerland. Given a choice, if you were sponsored, how many of you would like to be in that stadium tonight? Right? Many of us would be. Now, great. For all of you who raised your hands, sorry, that money that I promised you will never come. You'll have to go on your own. How many of you will still go, right? So that's what Chris Anderson said. There's a massive difference between people being hungry for knowledge, and there's a big gap about people having the money to access that knowledge. And he decided that, I'm going to just open it up for people, and we'll figure it out. And it turned out to be a masterstroke. So many people who watched TED conferences, they saw the value in each of the talk. While it is easy to gain knowledge through watching a video, what you cannot gain is in the ability to network with people. Imagine you're sitting, sharing a table with Bill Gates. Imagine you're having your evening sundowner along with Larry Page of Google, right? So who's who of the world really comes in? Wouldn't you want to be part of that in crowd? And that's really what actually made a TED conference even more popular. So from $3,000, they increased it to $5,000. The waiting list still did not come down, and then to $7,500, and then to $10,000. Now it is about $12,000. That is insane. So the lesson for all of us out here, right? Please do not hold on to your knowledge. the more you hold on to your knowledge, you're doing yourself a disfavor. Which is when Hassan spoke about in his talk, and one of the slides I saw that you're into TikTok, right, Hassan? I should check you out. Making coffee, cooking food, and you're the resort manager at Digali, Maldives, right? So in spite of holding a full-time job, you're still going ahead and following your passion. And the more you do, and like you said, it's the generalists that make better leaders, right? So the more you share your knowledge, the better you're actually found online, right? And that is another important lesson that I wanted to say, which is you have to build authority. You have to build authority if you want to be taken seriously. And an important word in authority is the word author. And my absolute fervent appeal to each one of you is you should give a conscious effort in authoring your own book. And I cannot stress upon this information a lot. You want to be authors? Everyone. So let me follow up question what Fatima asked you. All of you raised your hands saying you wanted to become an author. How many of you have taken action and finished a book and become an author? Raise your hand. Right? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? That's roughly about 5% of this audience. So there is this huge gap between wanting to be one and then to actually doing it. And let me tell you this. If you need proof why you should follow your path, let me tell you my own case study. About 2 weeks back, I got invited to do a session at Sunsiam. Sunsiam is this group here in the Maldives. So they wanted me to take a workshop on how do you improve the reputation of companies and how do you get them up on top of TripAdvisor and Google My Business. Now, I run a digital marketing company. So for over 20 years, we've been helping India's #1 and #2 hospitality chains. So based on that, they invited me to come and do a workshop. So I took this as a challenge, saying that when I'm doing a 2-day workshop, it's important for people to have a reference material. Otherwise, it's just fleeting. The information comes and it's like you coming and watching a movie. So I got this invite about 2 months back. In 2 months back, I put my heart and soul into this. And after all, we have the knowledge, and I put it together as a book. And this book is about reviews to revenues. What can you do as a way to build your reviews, as a way to increase your revenues? And these are powerful strategies for resort owners to help increase their rankings, because the higher the ranking, the greater the booking. It's a common sense out there. And let me tell you this one single book is the reason. So I'm also a professional speaker, and this book has helped open up insane amount of training opportunities that has come in. And let me tell you this, I'm not trying to, my purpose is to tell that it will pay you back multiple times. In a crowded audience like this, how do you stand out? How do you display your authority? How do you convince people that you're worth the time? And you do that in multiple ways. You can do this by recording podcast. You can do this by recording TikTok videos. You can do this by recording YouTube. You can do this by writing newsletters and articles on LinkedIn. You can write blogs, or you can write a book. The bottom line is you have to be content creators and not just content consumers, right? Right, ma'am? Right. So this is if you have to remember only one word, only one key takeaway when you step out of this hall, just one, and you forget about everything else I told you about, the only thing you need to remember: create content every day. Don't be content consumers. We are so used to waking up in the morning, you're grabbing your phone and you're looking at your WhatsApp messages. You're looking at news. You're turning on TV, looking at news. You're grabbing a newspaper, reading. That is such, it's really a bad habit to have. So if I could just encourage each one of us that what is it that we have originally created today? It doesn't matter if it is just one paragraph. It doesn't matter if it is just half a minute of video. It doesn't matter. But create something every single day. And I would urge you. So let me also, I know what your mind voice is. Somebody asked me, are you not propagating mediocrity? Right? If everyone writes a book, what's the value in a book and what's the value of an author? And my answer to this is, there are so many people already in the world, so why create another child? Right? And it's the same thing for each one of us. For each one of us, our experience, our knowledge is very unique. Right? When Madam Fazna spoke about vulnerability and the way how you went in, if you hadn't come here to the stage, and if you hadn't shared with us the stories of the fire and the various communities and how the elderly women needed to have space on the ground floor, how would we even know? Right? Sometimes these experiences, these knowledge that you have accrued over a period of time, if you don't tell it, who else will? Right? And that's why I really urge each one of us that if you're serious about building your reputation, I want you to seriously take advantage as on writing your own book. Don't worry about language. Don't worry about structure. One of the book that I authored is a book actually called First Book. Literal meaning is called First Book, where I interviewed over 100 plus best-selling authors around the world, and I asked them, you now are New York Times best-selling authors, you have sold millions of copies. What advice would you give to someone wanting to write their first book? And you know what they said? These are people who have written 10 books, 15 books, 20 books. All of them said their first book was crap. Every single person of them, they said their first book is embarrassing. But if you don't write that embarrassing first book, you will never write the next bestseller, right? So I don't want you to be very self-conscious when you do that. And you should just go power it. And I can't emphasize the importance of you becoming awesome. So just to tell you the impact of what TED has done, what Wikipedia has done, this is Britannica Encyclopedia. It's been in business for 450 years. You know, this is the book that your parents and grandparents bought and kept it in the bookshelf for you to never touch in your life. That's the book I'm talking about, right? This company is now being shut down. Do you know that? Microsoft Encarta, which is supposed powered by the $1 billion Microsoft entire thing, that got washed out because Wikipedia, the power of the people. So never discount the power of the knowledge that you can do that. Story number 5. This particular one can be a little queasy for you to watch. So I'm just giving you enough warning before that. Okay? I have 2 teenage daughters. And I've seen them struggle through this, especially as they mature and you're capturing, you know, your college phase, your dating phase, and then boys come into the picture and you want to look good, you want to smell good, you want to... it's a very natural progression that every girl goes through. And one of the things that people are very embarrassed is panty lines. And this was a problem that this girl faced. Her name is Sarah Blakely. She used to sell Xerox machines, you know, these photocopier machines. And in the company, she was the only saleswoman. Everybody else were just sales guys. And every time that she would go, of course, she's an American, so she would be dressed in corporate formals for women. And every time she would walk into a big corporate office, you could see, she could feel the eyes on her falling in. It's a very natural thing. You go to any country and a young, good-looking girl walks by, it's a very natural thing. But it made her very self-conscious. And she would go down to seek opportunities on what is it that we can do to overcome the panty liner problem. She could never find the solution out. And finally, she said, if I'm not getting it done, let me do it myself. So she is no designer, she is no tailor, nothing, but she took help of a local tailor. She went and searched for materials, and then she came out with her own line of products that solves the problem. But imagine that she is still a saleswoman, right? She is still a saleswoman. And as you can see out there, Sarah Blakely, is the youngest lady billionaire in the world right now. Right? Her company has got phenomenal sales, but again, the background story goes back that she was able to identify a problem that million other women were facing, but who didn't take action. And so she understood the problem. She also saw market opportunity that others were going through. She went through the same problem because she could feel the pain, and she was able to come out with a solution. So that is a very, very critical thing. And this is what, so Sarah Blakely in one of the interviews at Forbes, and in this particular edition, there's an amazing, masterful piece of interview that's published. And the interviewer asked, what's the secret behind your success? Right? That's a standard question that you would ask any billionaire. And she said, the ability to fish out problem areas. So anytime there is a discomfort, anytime there is there's a feeling of dissent, there is a feeling that something is not right, always create that mindset of quickly jotting it down. For example, today morning, did you see when when the speakers were coming, did you notice how Shihab was going through the problem as a speaker? You know, that's a problem that no speaker should go through at all, right? You play music, you're getting pumped up, and then it goes down, right? Now that's a problem area. That's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the person who's running this hall, who's taking care of the system, to quickly figure out an alternative mechanism to make sure that it doesn't happen. If that guy is not doing it, the owner of this hall, that's an opportunity for one of us to step in. And I will now offer this as a service, which is your sound system as a service. I will come, I know that your sound system is a problem for, if your speakers are dissatisfied, you as an organizer will be dissatisfied, and hence the owner of this place, you will lose your business going forward. I will come, take complete ownership of this, and I will ensure that your sound system is completely glitch-free. And I'll tell you what, people will be able to pay a premium. Shaheena, if somebody came and told you that, would you take that offer? Somebody came and said, you know, I will ensure that your event runs smooth. That is an opportunity. So this should be part of our mindset, that every time, every day, what is it that we can take note of that can be improved? And that's an amazing mindset that I've seen leaders develop, go by. So this is an exercise I want you to do. I want you to take out your phones. I want you to fire up your data. I want you to type your name. Okay? I want you to type your name. And I want you to tell me, what do you find? Yes, open up Google, and in the search bar, I want you to type in your name. Preferably type in the name, how you're called. I know you have a long name, but how are you usually called? Like my name is Kiruba Shankar. So people who typically type in Kiruba to find out who I am, right? So similarly, just type in both how you're known for, and then type in your long name. And yeah, then you have to blame your parents for it. Yeah, you could type the city, yes. Or you have your pictures coming in, that should make you proud. So the reason why this particular exercise is very important is By the way, how many of you usually have Googled yourself earlier? Raise your hands. Right? What a narcissistic bunch of people you guys are. I'm sure you're the same people who stand in front of the mirror for half an hour every day, correct? Right? No, but seriously, it's an excellent exercise that you've done. And you should do. Because if you can't find yourself, how do you expect others to find you? Yes or no? Right? So and in case if you don't appear in the first page or second page, then you need to work on it. You being visible is an absolute non-negotiable requirement for you to succeed as a professional and for you if you're serious about building your leadership reputation. You need to be searchable, and more importantly, you need to be findable. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's super, super important for you to do. The second one I would highly encourage all of you to do is you need to have a solid digital presence, right? And what does a solid digital presence mean? Most of us are already on social media, so that is great for you. I'm assuming you're already on LinkedIn for certain. You're probably, all of us are already on Instagram, on Facebook if you're old. So it is important for all of us to be on social media, but even more important for us to be consistent in our updates. And when I say consistent, at least a couple of updates a week is important. Again, check yourself, how often do you post? So that's something that you need to be. And the third important thing on social media is, are you either useful or are you entertaining for your audience? Why should somebody come and spend his or her time of day to read your updates? So are you being useful for others is a standard litmus test you can run past the thing. But in spite of all the social media networks being there, the TikToks of the world and the Instagrams of the world, my strong advice is you should have your own website. You have dewdropshaheena.com, you have venkatrangan.com, you have asanfushi.com. So it's mohammadshihab.com. So there are classic examples of many of us who have done the right thing. And the reason why I encourage each one of you to have your own website is because that is your property. If you're on LinkedIn, you're on a rented space. If you're on TikTok, you're on rented space. You do not own the platform. Somebody else owns the platform. And if something goes wrong, so it is important for you to have your own website. Another important reason is when somebody Googles for you, Google always gives higher preference to your own website more than anything else. Okay? So my challenge to you is, and see if you're brave enough to accept this challenge. And the challenge is, before tonight, you will go and find out what is the right domain name for you, and you will book the domain name. If you don't book the domain name, you will not have your dinner. Yeah? Yeah, especially the students, right? I'm going to request Shaheena to keep a tab on this and let me know how it is. Really. So it's one thing for you to hear such easy advices for people to come and give on stage, but the best way you can do is act on it and go ahead. Really, and I really mean this. If you don't have your own website, take the first baby step, which is go find out what's a good domain name for you. If you go to name.com, or if you go to godaddy.com, by the way, I don't get any commission. So go ahead and do yourself a favor, book the domain name, then take the next step of finding somebody to help design the website for you. Tomorrow you will meet this guy, right? Hafif Hussain. You should check out his website, afif.org. So if you go to his website, afif.org, you will immediately be able to see the different facets of what Afif does. To me, for a long time, I only know him as a MOP, as a co-founder of MOP. The second thing, I might know that, hey, you know what? He works at Lux. He's the head of talent, but there were so many other sides to him. that complements his profile, right? If hadn't I listened to Hassan giving his presentation on the various things he does, I would not have known. So if we don't tell about what we are good at, what we find interesting, it's very rare for us to do it. Like, for example, he's a massive fan of France, and he's supporting France. I mean, you cut his wrist and you'll find blue color coming through. He's such a fanatic. But you know what that does? It invites other people who are fanatically obsessed with football and especially supporting France to be part of his community. You see that, no? So it's very important for you to do that. That's a good-looking guy, no? So oh, that's nice. That's a good girl at the background, huh? That's good. So he's authored a brilliant book called Small Steps to Big Wins. Right? It's an absolutely brilliant book on how you can take baby steps to sculpt your own brand image and to really do that. So that's something that I would really recommend. My sixth, is the clock working fine? Yeah, okay, good. That was a very sad yes. It's like, yeah. Okay, point number 6, story number 6. This is my farm. So in addition to running a digital consulting firm, I also run an organic farm. It's a 13-acre farm in a beautiful remote little village. It's really a picture postcard village in south of India. And so during COVID period, we saw an opportunity where people did not want to go to hotels and resorts. They wanted to go to some very far off place that is naturally socially distanced. So we built a couple of small houses where people can come in and stay. That is my grandma on the left. Her name is Lakshmi. She's 91. On the right is my mom. She's 72. Her name is Kasturi. So both of them are not educated enough. My grandma has only studied till 3rd standard, and my mom has only studied till 7th standard. Even though they can read and to a certain extent write, but they are not educated. So, in India, especially in rural India, it's a highly patriarchal society, meaning that guys take all the decisions and women will take care of the kitchen and take care of the kids, right? So but for them, one of their biggest aspirations in life was to earn on their own. Otherwise, they are always dependent on menfolk. So this was a dream that they had for a long time, and I sensed an opportunity, and I helped them build a farm stays, and now they are running a really successful one. But what I wanted to say was a very interesting incident, string of incidents that happened, and that is Hindu newspaper, which is supposed to be like the New York Times of India. They ran a story about my grandma and mom running a farm stay. Okay, so this appears on the front page of the supplement, not the main paper, but there's a supplement paper that comes along with the main paper, and that is a front page story. It's a big photo along with a nicely written. That's something to die for, right? So I want you to keep that in mind. But along with that, on the very same day, this girl, she came along with her parents the previous night and she stayed at the farmhouse. We didn't even know what she used to be working at Accenture as a junior person. And she would have a phone and she shot a few clippings and she stitched together a 30-second Instagram reel and she uploaded it. And let me tell you what happened. So both the things appeared on the same day. One of India's leading, most prestigious newspapers wrote a front page story about the farm. And then this young unknown girl, she put a story out there. And as you can see, that's garnered in a couple of days, it garnered over 1 million views on Instagram. Whereas this national newspaper, I must have received just a little over 30 calls. But only because of her, we got inundated with over 600 calls in one single day. Can you tell me why? But I want you to now so here is this national, how old is Hindu? It's about 140 years. It's a 140-year it's a massive publishing empire, highly credible. And I get 30 calls. Sorry? Who reads it now? That could be a good question, but they have decent readership. Right place at right time. So let me tell you this. Newspapers are run on advertisement, correct? Every newspaper, every TV channel, you watch. The reason why you're able to see Euro for free is because there are ads being shown in between, right? So you could actually buy a story in many major newspapers if you have the right PR agency to help support you, right? And we all see through that. Whereas when somebody comes and puts a short reel talking about their experience, you generally tend to add far more credibility to that because they have no commercial interest. And so the believability and the credibility of this young girl really shot up. And people could empathize because she's also like us. And that's why I strongly recommend that if you aren't on TikTok, please be on TikTok. Really, right? Many of us, we attribute TikToks and Instagram reels to dancing and making funny memes and going ahead. Actually not. Find out what your true calling in life is, and this is just like, it's just like your mobile phone or your knife or a car. Use this as a tool to improve yourself, right? So something that just like how she has found a place to a voice online, I want you to do this as well. So this is the small story that she wrote. It's a simple story that she wrote on Instagram. And look at that. 35,000 people have liked this particular thing, right? And look at these shares, right? This is just in 2 days' time. So I want you to now make use of, this particular story is going to, the seventh story is going to re-emphasize the message that I told you about being extremely generous with your knowledge. What do I mean by that? His name is Kalyan Verma. He was employee number 3 in Yahoo's research and development. Fabulous guy, extremely intelligent, and he built the security system, the online security system for Yahoo back in the day. I'm talking about a decade and a half. Fabulous guy, extremely talented. But he also had a deep passion in his life, and that is wildlife photography. So every Friday evening, back then he wasn't married, so he would come out of the office and go straight to the forest. And then he will only come back on Monday morning back to office to rejoin back. So on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, he would be in the forest photographing, and so infatuated, so much he was in love with the entire thing. So one day what happened, this was a photo that he clicked, right? So this is 2 red ants copulating. And then this is one of the very rarest things in ant, where once the copulation happens, the lady plucks the head of the guy and throws it out, right? It's a very rare to happen in the ant thing, but it happens in another species. So he picked up this particular photo, and then every single photo that he clicks, and he has this bazooka of a camera, right? You have this camera with a large lens, and then he takes these fantastic photos, but he's very conscious that he did not want other people to steal his photos. Why? Because he spends insane amount of money in cameras and equipments, and he funds his own travel to the forest. You don't want other people just steal his work for free. So what do you do? What would you do if you were in this position? You would stamp a watermark. Kalyan Verma photography, an ugly looking watermark. So you don't want others to steal. What's the second thing you can do? Instead of putting high resolution photos, you will make it into shrink it into a small postcard size photo, low resolution, and then you will post it on Facebook or on Instagram. That way people can't steal the high resolution. But in doing this entire process, he missed out in putting the watermark or in resizing this particular photo. And about 2.5 months later, he gets a check for $750 from Nature magazine. Nature magazine is one of prestigious magazines. And they have chosen this particular photo as the cover photo for the magazine. And then, as a way of saying thank you for using that particular photo, they sent him a check. He was astonished. And so he got back to the nature guys saying that, hey, how did you even get hold of this photo? He says, no, I found this photo and I found it under the Creative Commons license. So accidentally, while uploading it, the Creative Commons license is where it is the opposite of copyright. Copyright is where it's saying that this is my property, you touch me, I break your leg. A Creative Commons license is feel free to use it, but if you're using it commercially, you pay some amount of money back to me. And that's what Nature Magazine did. And what they did was completely legal. And that's when a light bulb went in his mind. Oh my God, you mean we can make money like this? You mean I can follow my passion and still make money? And 1 month later, he quits his job from Yahoo and becomes a full-time wildlife photographer. And thanks to his abilities, he's been able to shoot some fabulous documentaries. His documentaries have appeared on your Discovery Channel, your National Geographic, and it's an absolutely fabulous thing. And that one single incident of him accidentally not doing it is what really taught him. Now he's a huge proponent of advising others to give away your knowledge. Right? So the more you contribute, the more you give, the better it is you benefit in the long run, and that's how you build your reputation. Okay. Can you tell me what time it is? It's 4:30. So we have 10 minutes to close. Okay. Or maybe a little less. My 8th point, actually I've come almost to the end of it. My 8th point, what I wanted to say is that I told you about my 13-acre organic farm. We had problems with the farm because there is no boundary in the farm. So which means that goats and cattle keep coming into the farm and they keep eating the small plants that we just planted. So what would you do if you were in my position? How would you protect the farmland from cows and goats? You would put a fence. The minute I tell you a fence, what comes to your mind? Like a barbed wire or a diamond fence. But that's very expensive if you have to cover 13 acres. And that itself will take tens of thousands of dollars. So I came up with an idea. And the idea is, I went and bought bamboo saplings, right? And I planted them, bamboo saplings, bougainvillea saplings, and casuarina saplings, like the ones that you see in Hulumale. And I planted them very close by, all of them together, so that when they grow, it'll protect. But was I disappointed or what? I bought tens of thousands of these saplings and I put them along the boundary. But nothing happened for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. You know about the Chinese bamboo story. You know how it's going. And this is exactly what happened. This is how we planted. Nothing happened for almost 8 months. Nothing happened. And then from the 11th, 12th month, this is how it is. So every single day, I noticed about 3/4 of a foot that it was growing. Like every single day. Like today, it'll be here. If I come tomorrow, it'll be like this. So it's just crazy. So the reason why I've heard of this, it's a very cliched story, to be honest, the bamboo. But when I see this in real life, that's when it really hits you. My goodness. So the bamboo that I planted actually started to grow from day one. Where did it grow? Underground, right? So it was developing its root system, and before it diverted all its energy up. I think in a way, we should use the Global Coaching Summit that we are in. We should use of the platform that somebody's really worked hard to help build. We should use that as a way to really develop ourselves. And the greatest thank you that all of us can give to speakers who have come and spoken before, and the speakers who are going to come and speak tomorrow, and the greatest gratitude you can show to Shaheena and a team of people is if you can put the lessons that you have learned into action, and if you can demonstrate success. And I think that's the greatest gratitude you can give to the community, and pay it forward to help others. Right? Fantastic. Yeah. Now we can wake up, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I noticed nobody was asking any questions. So I bought a large Cadbury's bar. for the first person to ask the question. Oh, Shihab? Okay. So Shihab, that chocolate was a lie. So yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, it's coming to you. Maybe the problem is you. Yeah, everybody else they were fine. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Kiruba. I mean, I didn't expect this, but it's so much that we have to take in. Probably it will take a month to process all of this. But what you said, one of the things that struck me is an experience that I had way back in 1994 in Metro Manila in Philippines. A long story, but I'll make it very short. I was on a social work field trip, and there was a mother and a father, 14, 15-year-old. I stayed with them in the cemetery. We lived in a cardboard box for a night. And when I had to leave, there was a baby. So I wanted to give something to the baby. My social worker colleague told me I have to be very careful with the money because they will steal, they will rob. So when I had to leave the next morning, I gave them 100 peso that was in my pocket. And they said, no, we don't need 100 peso from you. Because if we take, they said, if we take this money from you, we will spoil the experience. You have come from thousands of miles away. Nobody has done this to us. Nobody has come, stayed with us, slept with us in the cemetery, in our cardboard boxes, and given us so much love. I think we have to stop thinking that people are always wanting things from you. They're not. Thank you.
That's a brilliant point. Thank you. Yeah. Somebody had another question? Great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Okay.
Let's give a huge round of applause to Kiruba sir. Louder. Louder. Yes, as we continue our journey towards personal growth and fulfillment, let us all carry the wisdom shared by different stories by Kiruba sir. May we all embrace the challenges as opportunities for growth and never lose sight of our potentials. Thank you so much again that reminding us that nothing is impossible. Believe in ourselves and our dreams and encouraging us to create something valuable each day. So on behalf of PCOMA, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude for the exceptional speech in recognition of your valuable contribution. We are honored to present you with a certificate of appreciation. Where's the loud, huge applause? Louder! Thank you once again for your time, effort, and commitment to enriching our event. So here I pass the mic